السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. ازيكم يا دكاترة، عاملين ايه؟ ان شاء الله بإذن الله النهاردة هنتكلم على الاوستيومايلايتس سيكشن. هناخد فيه ايه؟ هناخد فيه الجروس والمايكروسكوبيك بتاع الاوستيومايلايتس والبوتس ديزيز ان شاء الله. طيب هنبدأ أول حاجة الجروس بتاع ايه الاوستيومايلايتس. المفروض ان احنا أهم حاجتين عندنا في الجروس النيكروتيك بون اللي بيحصل نتيجة الانفلاميشن، واللي بيبقى اسمه سيكوسترم زي ما انا بشاور عليه كده هنا اهو، اللي هو السهم الابيض ده برضه مشاور عليه السيكوسترم. وبعد كده بيبدا العظم يحاول يعني يعوضه بعظم جديد بنسميه بعد كده الانفولكرم. هو مش ظاهر هنا في الصوره. وبعد كده لو في باس او حاجه بيبدا يحصل له درينج عن طريق ساينس يفتح لبره البون خالص، بنسميها كلواكا. معلش في السكشن هبدا احاول اتكلم انجليزي عشان الطلبه الاجانب، بس ان شاء الله مش هقول معلومات مختلفه، هي هتبقى نفس المعلومات بالانجلش وبالعربي، بس مجرد ترجمه عشان الطلبه. For English students, today we are going to talk about osteomyelitis. I want you don't worry because I am just translating in Arabic what I am going to say in English. So this is the same information but in different languages, okay? The most important thing in gross picture of the osteomyelitis is the sequestrum and the involucrum. Sequestrum means necrotic bone which got necrotic due to the inflammation and the inflammatory process. Also the normal bone will start to form a new bone to replace this necrotic bone. The new bone is called involucrum. So the necrotic bone due to the inflammatory process is called sequestrum and the new bone is called involucrum, okay? Then after that, if there is pus, it will drain through a sinus and an opening through outside the bone. This is called cloaca. Here in this picture, the blue arrow is showing the sequestrum, which is the necrotic bone, while the orange arrow is showing the involucrum, which is the new formed bone or the reactive bone formed by the periosteum, okay? And a big opening, which is the sinus or the cloaca, okay? But as the arrows showing, the orange one is the involucrum, while the blue one is the sequestrum. طيب للطلبة المصريين، الصورة دي بتوضح اوستيومايلايتس زي ما احنا شايفين كده. السهم الأزرق ده بيشاور على النيكروتيك بون اللي حصل نتيجة الانفلاميشن وهو السيكوسترم، ولكن السهم التاني البرتقاني أو الأصفر ده بيشاور على الانفولكرم اللي هو البون الجديد اللي العظم بيبدأ يكونه عشان يعوض البون والانفلاميشن اللي حصل ده، فيحاول يعوض نفسه فبيكون بون جديد اللي هو الانفولكرم. تمام. This is another photo showing the sequestrum, necrotic bone, and the involucrum, the reactive new bone formed by the periosteum. Same thing. Okay, microscopic picture of osteomyelitis. The bone marrow spaces are replaced by inflammatory tissue and capillary proliferation and fibrosis. We will see this picture here. This dark violet or dark purple is called the sequestrum, okay? This is the sequestrum, which is the necrotic bone surrounded by numerous inflammatory cells, and these red things, these are congested blood capillaries. طيب للطلبة المصريين، الجزء اللي في النص الغامق ده هو ده السيكوسترم اللي هو النكروتيك بون، ومتحاط بيه انفلاماتوري سيلز كتيرة جدا اللي هي النقط اللي حواليه دي كلها. اما الاماكن الحمراء دي فدي البلاد كابيلاريز مليانة دم عشان الانفلاميشن. Here this is the bone trabeculae, okay? normal bone trabeculae and inflammatory cells, okay? Inflammation in the bone marrow, inflammatory cells and bone trabeculae. Here also the inflammatory cells. Here these are the sequestrum, inflammatory cells, okay, and some bony trabeculae. طبعا زي ما احنا شايفين في الصورة، أول صورة فوق على اليمين دي عبارة عن البون ترابيكولي العادي، وداخل معاه inflammatory cells، مليان inflammatory cells. الصورة اللي جنبها مكبر أكتر على الانفلاماتوري سيلز وجزء من البون ترابيكولي الصغير أهو واضح. الصورة اللي تحت على الشمال دي كلها inflammatory cells وبلاد capillaries، وهنا بيوضح لي أكتر الجزء الغامق ده السيكوسترم، وهنا حواليه الانفلاماتوري سيلز. نفس الكلام هنا البون and the inflammatory cells دي كلها الانفلاماتوري سيلز. فبالاخر كده لو شفت بون ومعاه inflammatory cells بقى osteomyelitis. So in brief, osteomyelitis microscopic picture, how can I know it? The key is the presence of inflammatory cells. So when I see the bone trabeculae surrounded by inflammatory cells, either the sequestrum or the necrotic bone is present or not, so this is osteomyelitis. So the main point is the inflammatory cells with the bone trabeculae. The same, this is the sequestrum and this is the inflammatory cells. Okay, this is inflammatory cells. Okay, this is the osteomyelitis. So in brief, we said that osteomyelitis gross, the main points are the sequestrum, which is the necrotic bone, in fulcrum, the new reactive bone, and in some pictures there is cloaca, which is the sinus draining the pus. This is the gross picture, while the microscopic picture mainly the inflammatory cells with normal bony trabeculae, and sometimes there is presence of sequestrum. Okay, this is in brief. Now we are going to talk about Pott's disease. What's Pott's disease? Pott's disease is affection of the vertebral column by TB, tuberculosis. Okay, usually it affects the thoracic and the lumbar vertebrae. طيب احنا دلوقتي هنبدأ نتكلم ان شاء الله على البولس ديزيز. والبولس ديزيز ده عبارة عن تي بي ولكن في العظم وخصوصا في العمود الفقري. بيأفكت ايه اكتر حاجه بيأفكت الثوراسيك واللمبر فيرتبري. طيب اول حاجه ان هو بيبدا في الانترفيرتبرال ديسك بياكله تماما، وبعد كده يبدا يخش على البون نفسه ويحصل بقى فيه كازياس نيكروزس وسوفت تيشو، وده طبعا هيؤدي الى البرولابس على الفيرتبري على بعضها ويبدا يعمل deformities. Okay, so the Potts disease or the TB infection of the vertebrae starts at the intervertebral disc. Okay, when it starts at the intervertebral disc, after this it will progress to the vertebral bodies and the bone, which will be replaced by caseous necrosis and soft tissue. This will lead to prolapse of the vertebral disc and leading to deformities and neurological deficits. Okay, here we can see the vertebral column. Okay, these are the vertebral bodies, and this white thing is the vertebral disc. Here, this is the affected area. Okay, it started at the vertebral disc and then it progressed into the upper or the above vertebral body, and also here the below one. This is replacement of the bone by soft tissue and necrosis. Okay, so this led to deformity. As you see now, there is an angulation in the vertebral column, and this is not normal. So there is deformity. Why? Because the vertebrae is affected by the TB and the inflammation. Okay. Here is the starting point where it started at the intervertebral disc. Here we can see the caseous necrosis in the body of the vertebral bone. Okay. So this is the vertebrae, and these tracked or the lined spotted areas, these are the caseous necrosis. Okay, these are the caseous necrosis. Now the microscopic picture of Potts disease, it's the same as the TB you studied before. It's just TB in bone. So there is the granuloma of the TB with the central caseous necrosis surrounded by inflammatory cells and joint cells, which is called Langerhans joint cells. Okay, as we can see here, this is the joint cells, Langerhans joint cells, and this is the caseous necrosis. Okay, here there is joint cells, Langerhans joint cells, and this is bone trabeculae. Okay, so when I see bone trabeculae with caseous necrosis and Langerhans joint cells, so this is Potts disease. Or if this picture only, but I said to you that the specimen is bone or the specimen is vertebrae, so this is TB in bone or TB in vertebrae, which is called TB in vertebrae, which is called Potts disease. The same thing, central caseous necrosis surrounded by inflammatory cells and Langerhans joint cells. These Langerhans joint cells. Okay. Okay, by here we are finished, but I want to in brief say what we took today. We took osteomyelitis and Potts disease, osteomyelitis, gross and microscopic. Gross is the involucrum, sequestrum, and cloaca. Microscopic, inflammatory cells with bone and sometimes sequestrum. And Potts disease, gross and microscopic. Gross affected vertebrae starting at the intervertebral disc, while microscopic, the granuloma and the same microscopic picture of TB with giant cells, but in bone, and sometimes there is bone trabeculae present. Thank you very much, and hope you got understand.